Lord's gonna help us tonight, so you better just stay out of my way. And so we play with it. And most of the time when people get to know who I am, then the barrier of this thing called pastor is broken down. Is anything you can do to connect with your audience is really where it's at. And so one little illustration can carry somebody for a couple weeks, remembering. So then every time they're eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich here in the next 2 weeks or whatever, they're going to think about it for sure. Well, I think I'm going to go. I'm going to go. I got to get set up for my illustration, and then we also got to get my copies of my sermon. We just printed it, so. I like to get a pretty, about like that. Yeah. Like this is where I start. This is the starting place. For some of you, you're getting more than a message. You're getting how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. This is working perfectly because this is exactly how it works for me. If you can imagine on a Tuesday what I'm doing at lunch to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, it's exactly this. So the second lap is around the edges.
But it didn't feel loose in any other way.
No. And I was actually, it was more like a Sunday drive. I thought, I'm just going to be committed to trying to get my laps in. It wasn't until I was 38 years old when I was coming back to the Midwest, ended up landing in Quincy, where this whole idea of racing came back into my life, and that was because of a friend of mine in the church that had a passion for racing, had raced, and then I always wanted to race, which is a bad combination. When you're in a race car, you don't think about anything else. And I don't know of any other thing to do at this point in life where that you can turn off all the noise in your head. It's a safe place. It's a, as I would call the honey hole, just a place where that you can just race. Don't think.
When you're in the race car, you're kind of in the race car, and that's what you're thinking about, and it helps kind of clear your mind and see a different perspective.
It's a way to renew his spirit, and when he races, it helps him to then perform at his best as a preacher, because it feels something in him. It fuels him for the rest of his life.
And so when you think about like stress reliever or truly an outlet for somebody that's inundated with people all the time and questions and texts and problems and challenges, that is a great place to really step aside. And so then like to be like almost like fully a kid. So it's really childhood formative memories that so much can drive us. I was 8 years old. I was born in Knoxville, Iowa. My grandfather ran the grader to prep the track. And so then we as a family would go to the track, and the love of speed and the noise. So I ended up just loving racing right out of the gate. That's really the pathway from being a little boy in Knoxville all the way almost full circle, living in Quincy just a couple hours from Knoxville, racing up in Iowa every Friday and Saturday night. When I go to 34, what I want kids to see is the bigness and the smallness of racing, that they one day could be a racer, but also just like the bigness of the moment with a lot of great drivers and great racing, and it's part of the Iowa legacy. To have a race car, to have somebody sign a shirt or a hat or an autograph card or whatever, especially in Iowa. I mean, Iowa is just, that's tradition, that's the legacy, that's That's really what Iowans are all about, which I love.
When you've grown a little bit since the last time I saw you.
Well, he's a fan. Every time you come out, he's like, hey, that's Preacher, that's my guy. That's Preacher. Yeah, he does.
That's cool.
That's pretty awesome.
That's really
Good luck
cool.
tonight. We'll see you.
Thank you, man.
Racing gives me a platform to connect with people that I would not connect to otherwise. And so it's given me opportunities to minister to drivers, whether it's marital counseling, whether it's parenting advice, just encouraging people, praying with people, praying for people, to be a voice at the track, and not only at the track but beyond. So it really is a way for me to be a witness to a group of people that may not receive that witness.
All drivers to the pit concession stand, please. Drivers meeting.
Racing is another community. You're parking beside someone every week. You're interacting with their week from week to week. You know what's going on in their lives. And you really become friends because you share the same passion, and you also are human, so then you share life. Yeah.
I mean, it's cheap enough.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we need I think we need more of this in racing.
Yeah.
We're losing all our fans because it's a traveling series, so who's the fan of you need local people watching local guys.
Yep.
Can I get you?
Tenderloin.
$6, please.
We'll do it. Right now.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. My last one of the year.
You get to see a little bit different perspective on, wearing a race suit versus wearing a collared shirt.
They're a little surprised. They'll say stuff like, "Oh, I guess I can't wreck him," or make sure that we get the Lord's blessing on this. There's a lot of Christian cliche that they throw out there, and I've parked by, people, and if I get close enough to them, I can make some jokes. I'll say something like, "Oh, well, we tore up tonight. I'll have to take another offering tomorrow," which is the furthest thing from the truth. Like people's perception of pastor, like I'm not going to be taking an offering, but I'll joke with guys like, "So that's how you fund racing is like, yeah, we'll take another offering." Or
And you had on your car, what was it? Living on a Prayer?
Racing on a Prayer.
Racing on a Prayer.
So many of my driving friends will say, "I pray in staging." So I don't want to say that racing can be church for people, but what that does do is that they know that they're in a dangerous sport, that they could find, harm's way could find them, is that oftentimes that's when they'll talk to me about God. It's like, well, that I pray in staging. I do a lot of prayer in staging. And so I think there is a connection, but the expressions are so different. I think it's because it's two different groups of people. A lot of times church people are known maybe for going to church, but not necessarily walking the walk. And racer people are people that walk the walk of whatever they want to walk. But they're like, you get what you see. And isn't it amazing that 1 Peter identifies and actually describes Christians as being peculiar and strange. Peace is a big deal. You have it or you don't. And Jesus demands, through what he's done for you, all in.